Nadeer suckers S.H.I.E.L.D. into a trap, and Radcliffe and AIDA seem to have their hands full with May, though apparently hers is not the only LMD out there. One of these things is not like the other. On this week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Season 4, Episode 11. Wake Up. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, of course, there's going to be lots of spoilers, so here we go. Alright, so, another decent episode this week. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, in my opinion. Overall, still positive. There were a few couple stumbly parts in there, and I will point those out as we go along. So let's start off with, okay, so we've got sort of the two main arcing stories this week. We have, of course, S.H.I.E.L.D. going in and dealing with Senator Nadeer, trying to bug her office, get a little bit more of info in on the watchdogs, on her, all of her connections. And then we have, of course, the LMD mystery specifically. We have LMD May discovering that something is not quite right with her, and then, of course, Radcliffe and AIDA still dealing with the actual May, who is not such a good patient at being quiet, all tied up there in their closet. So let's get into things. Let's start out with Radcliffe and AIDA. Okay, so of course, that's sort of how the episode opens up as we get the flashback. First of all, I always like it when they give us little timelines and connections, and knowing that it's only been 5 days since basically the end of the whole Ghost Rider arc, where May was captured and turned the LMD. So only 5 days have passed since the end of Ghost Rider. That's a lot of stuff happening in 5 days. But I guess that's the way things are when you're a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And, again, some good and bad with that as well. Radcliffe, I have to say, I didn't really like Radcliffe's scene back there in the old 5 days ago, going after May, asking the questions, can we help? He just seemed a lot more needy. Him as kind of more of a planning, thoughtful character that we've got in the past couple episodes. I like that a little bit more, that he's a bit more above, that he's really kind of thinking things through. Just in that scene, he seemed kind of wanty and grabby and, oh, can I help? And just a little snivelly almost. And it's not something I really like about Radcliffe's character. So that kind of bummed me out. Just if he had just seen May go and then make the phone call to AIDA, I think that would have been a lot smoother from a character standpoint, from what I liked about Radcliffe. On the other hand, we did get to see how an LMD gets activated, which was very cool. Little shot from the arm, little gathering of material, scan of the brain, and boom, all set to go. How far ahead were they planning the May LMD? That's the only thing that we didn't get, is how long did it take to make the May LMD? Was that just when, was that a quick thing right after Radcliffe called AIDA? Was the bot quickly assembled, or was this something that he had planned further ahead of time? Maybe that's something we'll find out in some upcoming episodes. But we did find out why the original programming to keep May under did not work. Groundhog Day in the spa definitely would drive May crazy. If anything is going to make her snap out of whatever state she's in, it's going to be a repetition of a day like that. That is not understanding May. A spa is not the way she would relax. It would be either in a gym or, let's say, an escape room, which was what Radcliffe finally jumped onto. And kind of seeing that idea of her constantly trying to escape the lab, much more of a thoughtful way of keeping May's mind busy. So that was a really smart thing with that. But what we did find out here really was that there is another LMD that is out in the field. And that's something sort of the rest of the episode plays with a lot. That idea of who is who. Is people real? Are they acting the way that they should? Kind of putting a constant suspicion on there. We had, in the big meeting before the mission, we had Gemma looking at Phil and Quake, Daisy, saying, I don't believe, why would you guys choose to do this? I can't understand. This is so unlike you. We had Yo-Yo talking with Mac about his physique, that it doesn't seem real. And then, of course, we have Mac taking the mysterious text and heading right out the door. And then even with Talbot, we had him, not agreeing with S.H.I.E.L.D, kind of fighting with the whole Nadeer thing, and then saying, hey, maybe I need to take all of your secure assets and go hide them out somewhere so that they don't get taken. So there's a lot of constant suspicion that's really kind of thrown out on various characters throughout the episode, suspecting that they may be the LMD, they may not be real. But of course, what it comes down to at the very end with Fitz's great little scene there with Radcliffe. And in fact, I liked Fitz through this episode, especially him dealing with Gemma, because he's really trying to pursue this. And that question of, is it an obsession? No, it is an investigation. I kind of like their bit, because we had that scene with Gemma and Fitz, where she is trying to give him the space to, to cope with the reality of the situation, but also be the girlfriend, be there, be someone that he can communicate with, and yet also be worried about his obsession, how far it might go. So when she turns and gets kind of the right idea at the end there, that perhaps they have an LMD and that perhaps the eyes are being seen by Nadeer. Now, I thought it was a bit of a jump, thinking that Ada's head might be activated, even if they have deathlocks, that Nadeer would be able to get in on that feed. I thought that was a bit of a jump, though of course ends up being true. And again, that moment there where Gemma is talking to Fitz about his obsession, in his turn saying, no, this is an investigation. I like the fact that we have Fitz being clear-headed. I mean, even in the suspicions and the curiosities and the questions that the two of them may be having back and forth, that Fitz isn't getting lost. I know a couple of us we were talking over in the comment section last week about, could this be a possible arc where Fitz has to worry about that obsession, that he could be becoming more like Radcliffe. And I like the fact that they didn't delve far into that. They gave that moment of, oh my God, is he making the right choices? But we find out very quickly, yes, he is making the right choices. He does discover that in fact Ada was programmed and that Radcliffe is behind it. But then of course it's not Radcliffe. It is another LMD. And in fact Radcliffe has sold the team out to Nadeer, and is now her eyes and ears inside. Well, was eyes and ears, since there is now a bullet in LMD Radcliffe's brain. And speaking of Nadeer, we have the whole other arc of the episode, which is, of course, Phil and the gang trying to plant the bug in Nadeer's office, and that not really working out quite as well as they had hoped. So, again, kind of an interesting little arc here, and again, I think it had some of the weaker points in the episode. I mean, some of it was fine. The idea that you need to do sort of a Senate investigation for signing the Sokovia Accords, compared to the Sokovia's UN and all that, it seems a little odd. I mean, Yo-Yo signed the Sokovia Accords in Mace's office, so it's not that big of a deal, so I don't see why they needed to necessarily link those two. But of course, this might have been Nadeer's setup in order to sucker S.H.I.E.L.D. in, have that opportunity. So a couple of little points in with that. One, the scene between Mace and Quake, between Mace and Daisy there in the hearing room. I thought that was really nice. Just the two of them. You know, they've started that little report last week. It's sort of developing a little bit more. Interesting that the two of them are bonding out of mutual trust that Phil has given to either of them, both of them. You know, Phil trusts Mace in order to be the head, and of course, Phil has trusted Quake long before she even trusted herself, as she says in the episode. So the two of them having a little bonding moment. I like how that's growing between them. But the whole assault on Nadeer's office, I thought that was odd. I mean, if you were going to bring someone like Yo-Yo with you, wouldn't you want her to run to the office, set up all the bugs, and run back out just as fast as she grabbed the ID off of the guard? I don't know. It just seemed to have been smarter to have Phil outside the office sort of watching things, as opposed to depending upon May and Gemma having some sort of bug on all of the security guards in the office. And the cameras didn't really sort of work, and then those went out. Anyway, that just seemed a little, it just seemed a little heavy-handed. Basically a move in order to get Phil and the gang caught and start this sort of conflict between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Talbot and Nadeer and create these complications. I just felt that was a little manufactured in a sense. And part of it comes down to the discussion on the Sokovia Accords, and this is, I just want to take a moment talking about this. Now, originally, the Sokovia Accords were set up for the Avengers, right? Civil War, that was the whole thing. But as we look into it, and as we started out with the end of S.H.I.E.L.D. last season, we do see that it is for the handling of enhanced individuals. So it doesn't necessarily just apply to the Avengers, it can apply to any enhanced individual. And that's where the real question starts to come down, are all enhanced individuals thus under the auspices of the UN? Is it basically you agree to not use your powers at all, no matter where you are, no matter where you live, you don't use your powers, or if you do, you have to do it under the auspice of the UN or you're breaking a law. But then you get in the spy agencies. You have S.H.I.E.L.D. Yo-Yo signed the Sokovia Accords to work with S.H.I.E.L.D. So, did they need to get authorization from the UN every time they want to use Yo-Yo and one of her abilities, one of her powers? I mean, that seems kind of heavy-handed. Would have thought that that sort of agreement would have fallen under S.H.I.E.L.D., that they can make the decisions, in which case, if Daisy was working for S.H.I.E.L.D., then none of her actions would have to be under question. They would all be technically authorized. And then it gets into the investigation into Nadeer. Now, Talbot was really against that. You can understand that from a political standpoint. He is protecting his butt. He doesn't want to create any waves, any problems, just made S.H.I.E.L.D. legitimate. However, if S.H.I.E.L.D. needs to have authorization in order to enact such an investigation against Nadeer, where do they get the authorization from? Can't S.H.I.E.L.D. themselves authorize it? Or if they are under Talbot, can't Talbot then authorize a S.H.I.E.L.D. mission and thus make it legitimate and make it legal? Embarrassing, sure, but not illegal. Or does Talbot thus need to get permission from S.H.I.E.L.D.? I mean, where's the ladder all set up in order to do one of these investigations? They have to do some sort of FISA court or similar to, I mean, just, it's starting to get complicated is really what I'm getting into. If every enhanced individual is under the authorization of the UN, and you must get UN authorization in order to use them, but those individuals are also working for a spy organization. Where is the command? How do you use these? Are all thus of Quake's and Yo-Yo's uses of power previous to this point all illegal? Because I don't remember any calls being made out to the UN. So that's the only place where I'm saying there was a little clunkiness in this episode, because they've started to open up a door with all of these questions that makes things a lot more difficult. Before, you signed the Accords, and then you were the auspices of that. Whether you got the UN or you got S.H.I.E.L.D. authorization somewhere, whoever you were working for, that was where your authorization came from. Now it's getting a lot more complicated. And then where S.H.I.E.L.D. falls in the area of what they can do or what they can't do, again, it's starting to get a little clunky, and that's the only thing that I'm kind of a little worried about. And just a couple of small things. One, the scene between LMD May and Radcliffe I thought was just amazing. As LMD May is coming up and saying, "My God, what is happening? What have you done?" The fact that Radcliffe doesn't even take a moment, but is just in sheer awe of what she's thinking and how is the experience going, and oh my God, you've discovered this. I just thought was beautifully well done. Didn't have to take a moment. From Radcliffe's perspective, it was just, that is the character that I really appreciate. And again, this is the one reason why those first few moments of the 5 days ago, I didn't really like that. Now, of course, this is an LMD of Radcliffe, but still, it's acting the same way, supposed to be acting the same way. So I'm going to put that aside and just say that is a beautiful scene. Anyway, I really loved his reaction to her questions and whole dealing with the whole situation. I thought was just beautifully well done. Just mwah. Oh, and Yo-Yo, Turtle Man, penis joke, really? Guess we're making the most out of our 10 p.m. time slot, guys, aren't we? And then, of course, there's Mac. And I just want to take a couple of brief moments here with this, because the whole text, "I've got to go," and then the story coming back, don't buy it at all. Something else is wrong. And the reason I say this is, they seem to, at the end of right at the end of the Ghost Rider there, where we see Mac sitting there staring at the picture that says "Hope" on the back of it. That seems to be something big. They're implying that this is some big thing in his life, this big moment. And as the story goes on, this is a big moment. He had a daughter, and his daughter died after 4 days, and this probably affected his marriage and caused everything to sort of fall apart. That I totally buy. The fact that it seemed to have just been thrown out there, that I don't. One, if your daughter's birthday is coming up and this has such a big effect, is this such as a big thing, would you have planned a mission around it? Wouldn't you have talked to the boss ahead of time? Wouldn't you be a little bit more concerned? Wouldn't it be just a bit more on your mind? This didn't seem to happen until he got the text that he even thought about it or wanted to take a moment. So I don't totally buy that. I buy that this story is real, but I don't think that that's what actually happened. Of course, this is what I'm saying is when Radcliffe says that there's another LMD out here, and we got all these questions of who is real. Now, once Radcliffe is discovered, we think that he's the second LMD out there. However, it was LMD Radcliffe that said this, and LMDs typically are not aware that they are LMDs. Therefore, I think that there's a second one out in the field, and right now my suspicion is that it's Mac. Just because it has to be a regular human being. It's not Yo-Yo, because Yo-Yo used powers. We haven't seen Quake use her powers yet, but I doubt that it's her. It's been in the field for a little bit, and she was kind of busy lately. We had the whole Mace thing. It's not him. It's probably not Phil, because if it was Phil, then Radcliffe would already have the information that he was going for. So that's my guess. I mean, it could be Fitz or Simmons, but I wasn't really getting this. Mac's the only one that had the really weird behavior, so I'm going to put some suspicion out on him and just say that he was out doing a mission at that point for Radcliffe or for something. Now, it could have been his kid, but it just seemed a quick way to sort of deal with that very heavy, intense moment. I would expect that there would be a lot more that would be sort of given to that story. So just throwing that out there. So, and the loss of a child is actually where we end things with May also. Specifically, we are talking about Bahrain. We are talking about the mission in which she became the Cavalry. Now, this was covered up back in Season 2, Episode 17, Melinda, where we found out about that mission to Bahrain, where she was supposed to take out it was basically thought that there was a powered person enhanced, ended up being an inhuman, that was controlling people, controlled the team, controlled a bunch of other people, was a no-win situation that Melinda went in to take care of. Though, of course, we found out that it wasn't an adult that was controlling everyone, it was a child, and in order to stop the carnage, Melinda had to kill the little girl, had to kill the child, and that is, of course, what turned her into the Cavalry, which really changed her from more of a fun-loving, rule-breaking May into the cold, emotionless girl that we love so much now. It's also what cost her probably her relationship, her marriage to Andrew, and is what is keeping her from being with Phil. Does everybody want her to be with Phil? We've got Radcliffe mentioning it. We got Yo-Yo mentioning it from Phil. You got to be with May. Seems everybody sees this but the two of them. It's always how it is. But we have Radcliffe changing that storyline, rescuing the girl in May's little mental action there underneath, which was kind of funny. Sort of reminded me of Tony Stark's barf, the whole brain amplified retrofitting thing that she did at the beginning of Civil War. Though not having to make it out there, it's all happening inside. Anyway, could be some good therapy. We might have a really different May coming out after the end of all this, as she's actually able to process all of these moments. So that's going to be something really interesting going forward. But of course, she is what looks like a submarine or something there with AIDA and Radcliffe. And the only thing I got to ask about this is that the real Radcliffe? And if that's the real Radcliffe, was it the real Radcliffe that was within Nadeer's office? I mean, once he makes one LMD, how many more of him might be out there? That might be really interesting too. Anyway, so that's going to wrap things up for us for this week. So if you did enjoy this review and all these commentaries, go ahead and hit that like button. Throw your comments down in the section below. What did you like about this episode? Anything bother you? What's your idea on the Sokovia Accords? Are they starting to get a little more complicated? Does it all make sense to you? I don't know. Anyway, thoughts, ideas, throw those down, comment section below. Now, we do have Black Sails, the pirate epic on Starz, going into their 4th and final season. That starts this Sunday night, the 29th. Reviews will be coming right out after that, so look forward to that. Anyway, you can also always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes, but of course, don't miss anything. Just hit that subscribe button, little picture of me right there. Come back and see all of these reviews, and of course, I'll throw the latest one right up here for you guys to check out. Anyway, that's going to be it. So, I am D, and I am out of here. You guys take it easy. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.